Hello, my name is Jean Kalinda. I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I've been here for 26 years and I own several small businesses, and I have the great opportunity to do some training on things that matter to me, and setting goals that make sense is one of those things. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening. So let's talk about goals that make sense. First of all, why do we set goals? Goals are a mechanism whereby we can realize our potential. Now, a lot of times we have things that happen and we may have a crash and burn, as I call it, and out of that pain, we regroup and we set new goals. But why wait for the crash to happen? And it usually does at some point in our lives. We'll have a little crash or a major loss or a disappointment, and something that really compels us to make a change. But I think it's wise to start before that happens, and then we won't be so thrown off course. So I want to ask you a question. What, if accomplished, would change your life? I'll let that sink in for a minute. It could be that you want to quit a job that you don't like, or that you feel like you're not realizing your potential. That could be a good goal, to be able to quit your job and work for yourself, have your own small business. That would change your life. It could be that you just need to increase your revenue to the next level, whatever that is. It could be that you need to make your first $1,000 in your business. It could be that you're shooting for that six-figure a year income, or somewhere in between. It could be that you're going for goals bigger than that. I don't know. But just think about that. What, if you accomplished it, would change your life? And the answers will be different for every one of you. Next question. Who will suffer if you don't do this? Now, I know for myself, I know what the answer is. I'm 65 years old. I don't mind telling you that. And my husband is 70. And we still have dreams and goals together that we want to accomplish, because we want to do things and go places together that we haven't yet. Now, we've had a great life, and we've been able to travel and do a lot of fun things, a lot of meaningful things, but we still have a list. We still have that bucket list. And so if I don't accomplish my goals, he will suffer, I will suffer, we will suffer as a couple. And also, we have 6 grandchildren, and I would like to leave them a financial legacy as well as a personal legacy. Now, I think I'm doing really well with the personal legacy end of things. I will have left them with a value system that makes sense. I will have left them with knowing that their grandmother was a woman of faith, and that they were loved unconditionally. They will know that we had a lot of fun together. They will talk about me when I'm gone in a way that I would be proud, and I know that. But I would also like to leave them a financial legacy, especially with the changes I see happening in the world now, and my goodness, I don't know that I'd want to raise kids right now. But that is my why. At this point, I have everything I need. I really do. I have a wonderful family. I have relationships that matter. I have great friends. I have enough money. But I still have goals and dreams that are unmet. And so that's my why. And as I say that, I can see their little faces in my mind. And I think I just want to spend more time with them. I want to do more fun things with them. And I think that's okay. I don't think we ever get too old to have dreams and be able to set goals. I am an avid reader. I've been a reader since I was a little kid, old enough to hold a book. And so I want to share with you some of my favorite quotes from some great authors. Scott Reed said this: "This one step, choosing and sticking to a goal, changes everything." Amen to that, Scott. And oh, one of my favorite people of all times. He's not with us anymore, and I miss him. But he was a great inspirational speaker, and he wrote some great books. And I can remember, years ago, Leon, my husband, and I would be riding down the road listening to cassette tapes. I mean, it's been that long ago. And he said this. He said, I find it fascinating that most people plan their vacation with better care than they do their lives. Perhaps it's because escape is easier than change. Now think about that for a minute, and thank you, Mr. Jim Rohn. Going back into the past a little further than that, here's Victor Hugo. He says, the future has many names. For the weak, it's unattainable. For the fearful, it's unknown. For the bold, it's ideal. And I love that. And then here's a contemporary of ours, Mr. Tony Robbins, and he says, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. Okay, let's talk about the rules of the game. First of all, state your intentions. Write it down. And let me stop and say something here. I don't mean make a Word document and write it down or type it out. I don't mean put it somewhere online or in your digital planner. I mean really take a piece of paper or a notebook and handwrite it, because science shows us, it is proven, there are some studies that have proven that something is much more meaningful and much more memorable when we actually physically write out something. Now, I will show you some processes that I use later that even though I start with this, I do transfer it into digital form. But to start with, it's really good to write it down. Now, the next one you may question, but I'll explain. Do not share publicly. I believe in sharing selectively with a few people. But if you put all your energy into sharing your goals publicly, it's like all the energy was taken up with that, and then if it fizzles, you're kind of left with nothing in your hands. So I suggest that let's say, for instance, you're going to lose 25 pounds. Well, I wouldn't put it out on Facebook, and I see people doing this, but I don't think it's wise. I would share with a selective few, even have some accountability built in with your selective few, and then when it starts to happen, then you can share more publicly. But if you use all the emotional energy into making this happen, if you use it all up front, it's like it's spent, and then the impact, it doesn't have the same impact than if you just waited and maybe got 10 pounds into it, and then you can announce what you're doing. Also, on the flip side, you don't want to be so vague about it that that vagueness will allow you to fail. So if you say something like, I need to make more money, I need a better place to live, I need a better car, that's so vague that no matter what mark you hit, you might think that's okay. So vagueness will allow you to fail. So you really want to state specifically what your intentions are and what your goals are. And we'll talk about something later that will be of importance to you concerning what a real goal is. But for right now, I just want you to consider those things. This is not just about business. For several years at our church, I went to a pretty large church, and we had several training programs in place, and I taught a course called SALT for a couple years. I think I taught over 400 people when it was all over with, but SALT stands for 7 Areas of Life Training. And those 7 areas were spiritual, psychological, social, physical, financial, marital, and parental. Now, I'm not suggesting that you try to tackle all of those. Instead, I think that if we just break it down to spiritual, family, business, and health, that ought to cover everything that you need to think about. Because really, this is a big list here. But I had 12 weeks to teach that course. So family, faith, business, or you could say your career, and then your health. So what would some goals look like in just those areas? And let's break it down even further. Let's reverse engineer your goals. If we start with yearly, that's a good thing. But you know what? The magic happens in the quarterly, because that's a 3-month period. And I think life is much easier to handle and goals are much easier to meet if we chunk it down into 90-day pieces. And I've heard other people that I admire a lot train on this. In fact, I just bought something not too long ago from Dr. Ben Atkins, who's a good friend of mine, and he was talking about this very thing, chunking things down into 90-day sections. But once we do that, we got to bring it down to monthly. And then we have to bring it down to weekly. And guess what? We then have to bring it down to daily. Let me see if I can think of an example of this for you. So let's say that you have a goal that's a little more sexy and exciting than let's get out of debt, although that's a good one. Do you know what it's going to cost to reach that goal? Pick something you really want. Do you want to go backpacking in Europe for a month? Do you want to take your parents on a cruise while they're still around? Do you want to do something special with the kids, with the family? Everybody has something that they want to do, but what's it cost? Do you really know? And if you don't know, you have to find out, because how will you know to plan unless you know what to shoot for? So I don't care how ridiculous or out of reach it seems. If you have a dream and if you'd like to make a goal to make something happen, you have to know what it's going to cost. So start doing your research now. Even though you don't think you can do it, that's not the point. The point is you need to know what you're shooting for. And then make an income calendar. Let's say, do you want to quit your job? If you've got a job that you don't enjoy, that's a very good goal. So what's it going to take? Do you know what your budget is? Do you know what things you could get by with if you lowered your budget expectations while you were either investing in a new business or trying to make something else happen? You've got to know your numbers. And I know we hear CEOs of companies say this, we have to know our numbers. Well, you have to know your numbers too. You don't have to be a big corporation to know your numbers. So I urge you to get started with that. Now let's talk about something else that's going to help you. Let's see here. Okay, what's the difference in a goal and a task? And a lot of people confuse a task for a goal. Now I'll tell you that conventional wisdom from the productivity gurus say, and I agree, you should only have between 6 and 10 big goals. And I mean goals that stretch out over those different areas of your life. Remember your spiritual life, your family life, your business, and your health. And so really, if you have just a couple big goals in each one of those areas, that's going to be enough for you. And if you have any more big goals than 6 to 10, they're going to become unmanageable, and worse yet, they're going to be untrackable. And I tried to make untrackable one word on here, and it came up with that little squiggly red line, meaning it was misspelled. So I went ahead and put a dash in there to get rid of the squiggly line. But you don't want things to become unmanageable and untrackable. And I find that I haven't done a whole lot of private coaching because it's not something I particularly enjoy. But when I have, and I want to go over goals with people, I find that they're putting a list of tasks on paper and they're thinking that those are goals, and they are not. Now I'll let you think about that because I think it will become more clear to you what that means to you as we go on. So the big question is, do your daily activities reflect your goals? And I'm talking about those 6 to 10 really big goals. Probably not. Because when I began to survey this in my own life, I found that my daily activities were not reflecting my goals. When I reverse engineered everything and brought it down to what I had to make per day to reach that big goal of getting out of debt, I wasn't doing those things. I'll give you an example. I had a goal for 2016 to write a book. Now, I've had the honor and the pleasure of being published in other people's books. One of them was a New York Times best-selling author, Joel Comm. I was published in his book. I've been published in a couple more, and that was great. But I wanted to write my own book. So that's the goal. But here are the tasks. Decide on the topic. Do the outline, decide on the publishing model and method. Do I want to do a Kindle book? Do I want a hard copy? Do I want to do both? Am I going to do self-publishing? Am I going to do create space publishing? What am I going to do? Research the costs involved and then schedule the writing time. So those are the tasks. So those are not my goals. My goal was to get a book published in 2016. Now, I haven't met that goal yet, but the year's not over. So, I just want to show you the difference in tasks and goals. Now, the big question about whether or not our daily activities reflect these goals is, why not? So why not? There's enemies in the camp. That's why not. What enemies, you say? Well, I did this as a live webinar and I asked people what their enemies were. And here's what they told me. Procrastination, overwhelm, or being overwhelmed, not being organized, no systems in place, the wrong tools, and the wrong team. Okay, let's take these one by one and talk about them. Procrastination really is an enemy. Now, I don't know what you're going to do about that. Get an accountability partner. Just, get a hold of yourself. I don't know. Overwhelm. What's the biggest thing that overwhelms us, especially if you work online? If you work with your computer and make a business and make a living like I do. In case you haven't guessed, it's email. Email will flatly overwhelm the best of us. Now, I did an experiment recently, and you wouldn't believe what happened. This was in June of this year, and I decided, because we were traveling that whole month, we took our RV to the West Coast. In fact, we traveled over 8,000 miles on that trip, and I decided to let my email pile up just to see what would happen. I mean, I did check it every day to make sure, nothing critical was being overlooked. But I knew that I was going to be doing this training, and I thought, well, that would be a fun thing just to see what happens when I just let it pile up. It was just an experiment. Well, folks, when I got home and I really looked at things, because on my phone it doesn't tell me how many emails. It just says plus 99. Well, it's plus 99 on my best days, so that didn't really tell me. So I got home and I looked at my desktop, and voila, I had over 19,000 emails. And I thought, oh dear goodness, I have created a monster here. And so I pulled out one of my favorite little gizmos online. Here it's called Unroll.me. Unroll, like you're unrolling something, .me, M-E. And it's a free tool, and it allows you to go through and roll up things that you don't want to see again. And if it's a subscription to something that you don't want to get rid of for good, but you really don't want to see it anymore, you just click unroll, and you go down your list. Unroll, unroll, unroll. You also can unsubscribe right from within unroll.me. So if you haven't checked out unroll.me, you should do that. But anyway, it took me the better part of July after I got home to go through, and I had to spend about 30 minutes a day, and sometimes I would do it while I was, chilling out at night. I'd get my laptop and I'd be watching the news or, a TV show with Leon, and I was just hitting unroll, unroll, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. And that's how that went. The next one, not being organized. I am organized, but in my own way. And my own way tends to be not so hot sometimes. I have a word for me. It's called chaotic. It means I'm chaotically organized, so I'm chaotic. I can tell you pretty much what's going on from one day to the next, from one part of the day to the next, but nobody else would be able to come in and make much sense out of what I think is being organized. So I'm always fighting with this. I'm always looking for a better way, and I will show you some of those ways a little later on when I get into my productivity course. But right now we're just talking about setting goals, and one of your goals might be to get control of your email, or really that's a task. Remember, the big things are goals, these are tasks. Here's an interesting quote from the Wall Street Journal. They said that white-collar workers spend 6 weeks a year looking for stuff. Can you believe that? That's a big vacation. 6 weeks a year looking for stuff. So are you looking for your car keys? Are you looking for your wallet? Are you looking for, where's that receipt I thought I had? Where is that on my hard drive? Where? So I think you can identify with that. But I don't think I spend 6 weeks a year looking for stuff. One of the nicest things my husband did for me was he made a beautiful little key holder, and it's right on the wall when you come in from the garage into the kitchen area, and he decoupaged a beautiful photo that we'd taken out in the Grand Tetons, and he put the the little hooks in there. And so it took a while, but my habit now is when I come in, I hang my keys up, and then I don't have to ever look for them again. And I did spend a lot of time looking for my car keys. The other enemies in the camp are no systems in place. And I'm always looking for a good system, and you should be too. We'll talk about some of those later. The wrong tools. You have to have the tools that you need to keep things rocking and rolling along. And the wrong team. Listen, if you've got a team member that's not working, the sooner you cut them loose, the better off you're going to be. I have a team of people that I outsource work to in the Philippines, and I've had the wrong ones from time to time. And I like full-time employees. I don't like just to go find people on Odesk or Upwork or Fiverr. It has its place, but I want people dedicated to me, and I want them to learn my business and know what I want. I don't have to explain it 9 times. And a few times I've had to let people go. And it was tough because I knew they needed the income, but they weren't working. And so I just had to cut them. I think one of the hardest things one time was when Sue and I were working together. This is several years ago, and she hired one of her friends to work in our business. And great gal, really a great gal. She had worked with her before when she had her training company, and it had been a success. But now everything was digital, everything was different, and this woman just wasn't up to speed. And truth was, she was never going to be up to speed with some of the digital things that she needed to know. And it broke Sue's heart because of her personal relationship, but she had to let her go. It just wasn't working. I'm going to go over this list again. Procrastination, overwhelm, and I think email is a huge part of that. Some people said Facebook. I don't feel overwhelmed by Facebook. I feel in control of that. If it's overwhelming you, then do something about it. Not being organized, spending too much time looking for things, not having the proper systems in place, not having the proper tools, or not knowing how to use the ones you have, and the wrong team. And also, to end this section, remember unroll.me. Okay, let's see. Did I show you that last slide? Yeah, a spreadsheet. I'm going to show you an old one, and then I will give you a template and show you something newer. But this was back in, this is about a year and a half ago. I got up at 7 o'clock. For 20 minutes, I made coffee and fed the dog and took the dog out. Now I have 2 dogs, so it takes a little bit longer. From 7:20 to 8, I had some quiet time. I read. That's usually time when I do some praying too. And for me, that involves listening as well as talking. So 8 o'clock, I went and made some more coffee. So I didn't really get started with anything to do with business until 8:15. Now, I know people say, don't check your email first thing in the morning. Well, that sounds really good, but for me, one of my businesses is that I own a telecommunications business. It's an automated answering service, and it runs on a voice over IP switch. And I have tons of businesses like doctor's offices, and it's like critical stuff that the phones are working. So I feel like I have to check and make sure there's no outages or no major problems, because that business pays my bills. Everything else I do goes toward something else, whether it's savings or helping people or making some of my goals and dreams come true. But that business pays my bills, so I'm going to check that email. And then from 8:30 until 9:15, I made slides for a webinar that I was doing. Actually, it was a similar webinar as what we're doing now. And let's see, LTA, that was a membership site that I had. From 9:15 to 9:30, I did check Facebook. I made more slides for the webinar. And now every day I go in, and there's this one big doctor's office that I service with my voicemail business, and they have 11 doctors, and I go in because I don't want any mistakes on this, and I do it myself. It takes me about 15 minutes, and I set all the notifications for who's on call that night, whether they want to be emailed, texted, called, whatever. So I set it myself. Now, I do have my daughter trained to do that now. In 2015, when this was made, I did not. But now she can set those and does most of the time. But at this point, I was doing it myself. There was that hospital I was talking about. They were late paying me. And so I had to give them an email about that. It took 5 minutes. I finished up the slides for the webinar. I took a lunch break, took the dog out, and it went on from there. Now, I will do a spreadsheet like this, about every 8 weeks or so. If I do it once a quarter, I feel like it's good. If I can do it once a month, that's even better. But I like to know where my time is going. And then at the end, I can sort with the categories and say, I spent way too much time doing this, and I missed some important things that were on my daily activities that I should have done to reach those goals. Remember how we reverse engineered it and came down to one of our daily activities doing to make things happen? And so this is just it's hardcore, folks. I mean, if you do this for a day or two, you'll begin to see where the holes are and where the places are that you need to make some changes. Okay, enough about that. I will make sure that you have this template available to you. And let's talk about one more thing here. This is important to remember. Get past the past. We've all got a story, and it's usually not a pretty picture. So if we're going to move forward, we've got to do just that. We have to keep moving. Everybody usually likes a personal story, so I'm going to give you one. This isn't particularly easy for me to remember and talk about, but I think that you'll appreciate more of where I'm coming from when you hear this. 26 years ago, I met my husband, Leon, and he had a great company at that time. It was called MicroWrite in Seattle. It was a software company, and we were doing very well. I became his partner, when we married. We moved to South Carolina because he wanted to play golf more. And because you could only play golf in Seattle, when it wasn't raining or whatever. So we came to South Carolina, and all sorts of things happened. The market changed. Hard drives that we were selling along with our software, they dropped in price. They were a commodity at Sam's Club and Costco and Walmart. We just didn't catch the change in the market. Leon's business partner kind of took the software and basically stole it. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden, what had been a $2 million a year business, I kind of looked up one day and said, Leon, you realize that we've only got like 60 days of money left here? And we just didn't pay attention quickly enough. In the middle of all that, my daughter, Melissa, was living in Sweden, and she had a really bad accident over there. She came home and began a series of surgeries and heroic efforts to keep her alive. And thank God that all happened. She's alive and well now, but she had 14 major surgeries in a few years. It ended up she has I call her the bionic woman. She has an artificial jaw, and it's made with titanium and chrome cobalt blue, I think it's called. But all that is going on. Leon had to file personal bankruptcy. Our savings was gone. We were living on that. Couldn't figure out what to do. I had a heart attack. We actually had to cancel one of my daughter's surgeries for me to go have heart surgery. And I wound up having 5 bypasses. We had cashed in our investments to pay for Melissa's surgery that the insurance company was denying because it happened out of the country, because of, they found all kinds of reasons. One time they even said it was cosmetic. We thought, really? When you can't open your mouth to eat, that's cosmetic? So all that was going on. And then the house that I thought was my retirement that we were living in, 2008 bumped around, and guess what happened? The equity disappeared almost overnight. And so I guess back in 2013 we finally did a short sale, just dumped it, but that was over. If anybody ever had a reason to think, gee whiz, things are looking pretty bleak here, I did. I'd been used to making a lot of money. Leon and I both had. So we started In Touch Solutions, which is the voicemail business and the automated answering service, just out of a need, really, when we found out that our area didn't have anything like that. And then later on, I started doing some local marketing with Sue. Then I met Brian, my friends Brian and Sid and Mario, and at an event in Vegas where I'd gone to just learn some things. And then later on, I partnered with them and made some great courses, and life bounced back. But it wasn't easy, and we just had to get past the past. Leon didn't bounce back as quickly as I did. I think what happened to that company was so much more personal to him because he had built that, even before I met him. Now, I will tell you this. I told you that his partner kind of stole the software and, just kind of took it and said, well, bye-bye. It has been 25 years since that happened. And this summer, he got a phone call from that man, which was incredible to me. I mean, it was a wound in Leon's life that I thought never would be healed. And the man was coming to Myrtle Beach with his brother and his family, and he wanted to get with Leon. And without going into all the details, I will tell you that after 25 years, some of that wound has been healed. And so it was one of those, I call it a God thing. So you never know when things are going to kind of pan out. So you just have to keep on doing the right things. Keep your head clear, keep moving, and keep making those goals. Keep making those goals. So I hope that this has been a good training and a good inspirational thing for you. I've had fun doing it for you. I want to ask you this. I'm going to leave you with this. What's your word for next year? Because next year isn't here yet, but I think everybody needs a word for the year. Now I'll give you my history on words. In 2014, my word was family. I had decided that. I wanted to focus more on my family. My grandkids were getting older. I wasn't seeing them as often as I wanted. I wanted to see my mother more. She's about 4.5 hours from me. I wanted to do more things with Leon other than just, work on my computer all the time. I really wanted family to be the word. Now, I will tell you this, be careful about what your word is, because it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because in 2014, after I had said that was the year of the family, I lost my mother. And I was running back and forth across the state, trying to be with her as much as possible, knowing that she was probably not going to get better. And finally, into the early fall, I just said, Leon, I give up. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to where she is, and I'm staying there. I'm just staying there until she's gone. And so whatever that means, I'm there. And so he brought the RV over, brought the dog over, set up the RV nearby, and it wasn't too many more weeks, and I was with Mother when she took her last breath. And so it really was the year of the family. And I saw my family, my 5 siblings, we all drew closer together, and we celebrated my mother's life, and we'd lost my dad 26 years ago. So it was a great time. It was a great time for family. Now, my word for 2015 was focus. And I had some challenges there because I can think of 10 ideas in the night and wake up and, get some of them started and never finish some of them. So that had to be focus. My year for 2016 has been clarity. And I've realized that you can't get focused unless you get clear on what you're doing. And so I've been working on absolute clarity this year. Now for 2017, I'm toying with the word transition. I'm not settled on that yet, but I'm thinking about it. So I want to urge you to think about what your word is going to be. Now you can think about it for next year because it takes some time to, think all this through. But if you want to go ahead and say, well, heck, I've got several months left in 2016, I'll pick one now. That's fine too. So, what's your word? And if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear them. I do think that this graphic is awesome. It's time for change, and change is good. So we will have a Facebook group for you, and I want to hear from you. And I'm so relationship oriented. I'm people driven. And I love hearing from people. Now, I can't do private coaching in there, but I want the Facebook group to be a place where lots of people will have comments and answers and support for you. You know, not just me and whoever else I'm working with, but please, I really want you to use the Facebook group. So that's all for today. I have enjoyed being with you, and I look forward to the next time and giving you more good things to think about. So bye-bye.